Okay, welcome back, my visionary friend. We are in the final module, my friend. We are in the final module, module three. So now it's time for us to put what we've learned all into action. And it's time for us to build our character. Now, I have my character that we've been working with. I have my characters that we've been working with and using as a template. And so, what I want you to do is from this to let this inspire you to create your own characters. Okay. So, what I'm going to give you through this module is the final finishing touches to you building a character. Okay. And so, what I want you to do is take the knowledge that you've gained from this and come up with your own story, come up with your own aspect. Now, there's many ways I come up with characters, and a lot of times when I come up with a character, it's from an experience I've had in the past or someone I knew in the past that gives me inspiration. And every time I go out, and if even if I just go out to the store, sometimes I'll get an idea for a character or a personality. I might get inspired by someone, their personality, to add this type of attribute and spirit to a certain character that I want to develop. And so it's a good thing to take a notepad with you and take down notes, or you can just do it on your phone. But I still sometimes do it with, with a notepad. Okay, just the traditional way that we all do. I'm still a little bit old school, but the thing is to take these ideas down, because you never know when you want to come up, and sometimes you're going to find some golden opportunities when you see something that inspires you and you want to notate that down, because as very key in telling a story with a character is by you taking something from real life experience, more so if it's an experience that you've had before or someone you knew before, or if the character is you. That's good too. I mean, because you'll be able to tell this character inside out more so than anybody, because it's an attribute of you. Okay, so let's get right to it and get started. Okay, so what we're doing now is I'm going to create what you would call a proportional box. And so proportional box is where you can create proportional lines. Now, what that means is that I'm creating something to put to bound my figure inside of, so that I can know how tall I want the figure to be, and I can have the dimensions and proportions that I want to have in order to create the figure. Now you say, what are proportions? So what proportions are is how long something is, or how tall something is, or how big it is, or how small it is. And so based off of the kind of character that I'm creating, I have certain proportions that I want to create in order to make that character look in the desired form that I want it to look like. So I have my two boxes here. One is going to be for the male and one is going to be for a female figure. So what I want you to understand and notice is how I divide this up. So I'm dividing it up into four sides and four dimensions, so that I can have the half of the figure, and that I can have the half of the figure vertically. So I'll have it horizontally and vertically. So I'm starting my waistline where the horizontal line is. The bottom half is where I start my waistline, but my head, from head to the waist, I'm going to start from the top half. Okay, so I'm drawing my square just like we did in the beginning. This is one of our what shapes. That's right, one of our origin shapes, the square. And so from the square is how I'm creating the head shape. So there's different ways you can do this. But here, this is a technique you can use in order to make your head. And you might ask the question, well, Willie, how do you know how long to make this? How do you know how much you want to create? Well, I think about from top to the waistline, halfway. Where is it in relation to halfway? Okay. And so it's half of halfway. And you might say that doesn't make sense. Well, what I'm saying is when you look at the top half of this whole entire box that I'm drawing from, the half of that box, if you get a quarter of that box, would be from the head, top of the head to the neck. And so within the middle of that, I'm drawing the torso now. And I'm using what kind of shape? That's right, a square shape as well. So you see what I'm doing? I'm putting various type of square shapes. I've even placed a triangle shape where the shoulders were. But now I'm doing a series of square shapes. So now where I'm located, I'm at the waistline. You see how these are just simple shapes that I'm using to create a complex figure. And here's my circles on the side. Remember we did that when we even did the 3D version of a figure. We drew a torso and then we made two spheres on the side. So this is from the front view, so it looks more flat. And you see how I drew that horizontal line from one sphere to the other, one circle to the other. I drew a line so that I can get it to be the same height and the same dimensions. So now I'm drawing the cylinder shape from front view. And you might say, well, Mr. Bloom, well, Willie, this is not a cylinder, that's a square. Well, because it's front view, we see that it is a square. But in actuality, it's a 3D shape. Because why is it a 3D shape? Well, because we are looking at this in 3D. Remember, we want to imagine that we're drawing 3D. And you see how I drew that ellipse there? Because I'm imagining that it is 3D instead of just the flat shapes. Remember how I drew my segments, how we were doing that earlier in previous lessons? So that's what I want you to take into consideration. And you can see I'm going from elbow to elbow, from one elbow to the side. I drew that line to make sure that I'm lining up perfectly. Where the wrist is, I'm lining it up with the other wrist. And so now, in the bottom half of the square that I made, I draw another line right here. You see I'm putting a line to the halfway mark because that's where I want the knees to go. So I'm putting two segments. You see, it's kind of like a stick man, only that I'm using the segments to draw the ellipse and connect them on the sides. Remember how we did that in previous lessons? So that's why we were doing that, guys, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to
create the illusion of a 3D object. So this thigh is a 3D object. And you say, why am I putting the circles there? Well, the circles represent the joint of the knee. And then what do I do next? That's right. I put another segment. Now, if you notice, this segment that I'm doing for the shins of the legs is I'm kind of putting a curve to them. If you notice that, you see that curve? Why? Because when you look at the shins and calf muscles, they kind of curve on the outside. And on the inside, they curve a little bit more. See that? And so now what I can do is I can put a joint there, rainbow shape, and then I create my feet. You see how it was a great idea to create a proportional box? Now, when you keep drawing with a proportional box, after a while you'll be able to do it without drawing a proportional box. But I want you to try this with a proportional box so you can get the feel of creating proportions. Because some of you, this may be your first time ever creating proportions. But over time, the more you practice, you won't have to use a proportional box in order to draw a figure. And so now I'm drawing my female figure. I'm doing the same method by making a square shape. Then I connected the top. Now, I'm not worried about my lines being perfect. What we're focused on is getting the shape of the head first. And then now we're drawing our neck. See how that works? So I'm making and creating all my landmarks on the figure. So when I come back to it, I'll know where I want to place things. I'll know where I want to place the eyes. I know where I want to place the nose. Know where I want to place the shoulders. And you see what I'm doing? What I'm doing here is when you look at a woman's shoulders, so her shoulders is halfway of a head, half of a head, and it goes out half of a head length. So I'm using the half of the square that represents the head to get the dimensions for how far out I want the shoulders to go. Now, a woman's waist is different from a man's waist. If you notice, we went, we caved in when it got to the waist. But for the woman, it goes out for the waist. See that? See the difference? So it's similar to what I did with the male figure, but now this time we made that box cave in on the second half, the bottom half of the torso. And for those of you who don't know what the torso is the chest and waist area, from the chest down to the shoulders all the way down to the waist area. That's your torso. And as you can see, I'm putting my segments in. Remember how I did that? And why do we do that? That's right, because we're trying to get the angle that we want. So we use those segment lines inside the arms or inside the legs in order to give us that angle, because we were doing that. That's how we were doing that previously. So you see how this works? And so I'm just putting these to get the joints. And as you can see, I always go from the right to the left or from the left to the right, either way. But I want to make sure that it's lining up. So the wrist joints needs to line up with the other side so that when I draw it, it will be equal. See that? I know where the wrist is going to go because I looked at it in relation to the other side. You might say, Mr. Balloon, you're not drawing any fingers. No, I'm not drawing any fingers right now because I just want to get the structure down. So now I have the joints. Remember, it's stick, so I'm making my segments. I'm curving out when it comes to the shin area. I drew a line across horizontally so I can indicate where I'm starting the feet. Draw my ellipse here, my ellipse here, my ellipse here, and my ellipse here. Now we can play the connecting game. Connect the outer, connect this to this ellipse, connect this ellipse to this ellipse. See how that works? Just drawing it from that side to the bottom. Notice what I'm doing. I'm doing a curve on the outside, but on the inside of the shin, I do a shorter, more sharper curve to indicate that that's a calf muscle. So you see how we did that? So you have your male figure shapes and you have your female shapes. So I want you to try this out. Okay, so previously what we've had is we just created our figure shapes. And we've connected the shapes, the simple shapes we've connected together in order to create a complex shape, which is the figure. Now I'm going to draw over it in order to draw my character. So in order to draw my character, I'm using the dimensions of the shapes that we just drew in order to create my figure now. Okay, so now I can create my figure. I can create my figure head. And this is typically what comic artists or cartoonists do, is they draw a sketch first to build up the structure, and then they go back and trace over with their refined lines, or they could ink their lines and then start creating their character. And so I know where everything is going to go because I've made those indications with the shapes. That's how I want you to think about it. You see how it's coming together? You might say, Mr. Balloon, you're making it look easy. It's not always that easy. Well, the more you draw, it will get that easy. I want you to continue to practice. Now, my line quality is not that great, but I don't want you to focus on the line quality. What I want you to focus on is being able to construct an advanced figure with the shapes that you've created. So doesn't matter how well your drawing is, if the structure is not there, it's not going to fall through. It's not going to be as effective or successful as you would like. So if you have the form down, then doesn't matter how good or bad it is, the drawing is going to look accurate because you've created a great foundation for the structure. And so now we have our male figure here. You see that, guys? So now you have your male figure. And so now I'm going to do my female figure. I could go ahead and create the character because I know where everything is going to go, because I made my indications with the shapes. So I'm drawing the hairlines. So I know where everything is going to go now. See how that works? See, because I've drew those shapes, now I know where my indications are located, and I know what I'm going to draw next. I can create my shapes, and create more detail on the figure. Why? Because I've already established where the shapes are located. That's the beauty of art, is when you structure it in a correct way, it helps you out in the long run. So now I got my whole front profile of the female figure. And now I'm going to finish off this arm. See how this works? It's very magical. And we'll just make some indication where the eyes are and the nose and mouth. See that, guys? And so just adding a few more little details. And so now we have our female figure, guys. So I want you to try this method out and see how you can put it together. There we have it, guys. And see, when I take my proportional lines, you can see the figure, how it is. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put a character in position. So we've drawn the figure from front profile. So now we're going to pose this figure in a position. And so what we're doing is we're using the methods and the exercises that we've done previously to construct our shapes and position the 3D shapes with it. So you see what I'm doing? So I made the head shape, and so now I'm making another rectangular or square shape here. You might say, what is that for, Mr. Balloon? Well, what that's for is so that we can create the 3D effect like we've done previously. We made perspective, we rotated objects, we rotated shapes in order to give the illusion of an object. And as you can see, I'm crisscrossing my corners so that to help me see the shoulder area more clearly. You see how we're connecting this box figure to this head figure? Okay. And so what I'm doing by drawing this circle is giving an indication to myself of where the bottom of the neck is located. And so now I draw this line in the middle to indicate one half of the chest and the other half of the chest. And so for the bottom half of the torso, I'm going to make that a more cylinder area, okay? Making a ellipse or oval at the bottom, just like we were doing when we were creating those cylinders and cans. That's why I had you doing that, is because I wanted you to understand the art of being able to connect shapes together to make them look 3D. So we have another rectangular square shape here, and then we do an upside down triangle, and then we do another square shape. You see how it's coming together, like it's looking like it's a 3D shapes connected together to build this figure. So that's what I want you to practice doing. Now, what do we need on the side? That's right, our spheres, because we need to indicate where the shoulders are going to be located. Now, what am I doing now? That's correct. I'm drawing my segments so I can draw my cylinders, my ellipse, so I can start connecting those ellipses. You say, but Mr. Balloon, you made the right version of the segment shorter than you made the left one. Well, I did that for a reason, because this is at a foreshortening angle. This right arm is at a foreshortened angle. So when you have something foreshortened, that means it's flat. It looks like it's shortened. You don't see the length of the whole object. It's as if somebody's laying down and you can't see the whole length of the figure. And so now I'm working on my left, and see what I'm doing? I'm creating those ellipses on the ends of each segment, and then connect, and connect. See how that works? You see how this looks like a figure now? Okay. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm drawing my box shape to indicate the fist or the hand of the right hand. Same thing with the left hand, indicating what that box shape is. See that? And I can make my indication of where the eyes are going to be located. Draw my circles to indicate what that's located. Make my indication for the nose and my indication for the mouth. And so now when I connect them together, I get the shape of a head. I'm drawing a sphere here at the bottom of the waist so that I can indicate where the segments begin and where the segments end. As you notice, the right segment is longer than the left segment. Why is that? Well, it's because it's the angle in which this leg is positioned. See, I'm drawing my ellipse. If you want to do this along with me, you can. And if you need to slow the video down, you can. See how we're connecting these ovals together? That's what we want to do in order to create the illusion of a figure shape. See how I'm doing this curve for the calf? That's why I had you practice doing curves. So I'm trying to curve my calf area. And you say, Mr. Balloon, how do you know how to draw a calf like that? Well, the more you draw things, you start to see it in memory. So here we have our male figure here. See how that works? So now what we're going to do is we're going to draw our female figure. I'm going to pose a female figure. So I'm doing the head shape, and now I'm creating the neck. Now, with this particular figure, what I'm doing is I'm starting with the spine. Okay, you see what I'm doing? I'm arcing the divisions of the shape. I'm curving the spine. Then I'm turning the waist area, and then I'm turning the area where the knees will go. So now that I curve that spine area, I know how to angle the torso area. So we're connecting this waist. See how that works? So when you're drawing the female form, even though I may start in a geometric way, meaning that I'm making squares and sharp shapes, even though we're doing this, we still have the ability to be able to soften those lines and make them more curvy or make them more organic instead of technical and geometric. And so we're connecting our segments here to the other. And now all we have to do is connect the ellipse. But I'm going to jump up here and finish off these spheres. that's right next to each other. And now, can you see how this can be helpful to your progress? So I'm just taking these segments and I'm connecting them together to create more objects that give the illusion of a cylinder shape. So now I have everything angled, where the arms are going to go, where the fists are going to go, and how they're going to be resting on the figure. So now I'm just connecting. So now I'm connecting everything together. I know where everything should go now because I created a structure. And so when you look at our human body and look at our physiology, we are made up of bones and flesh. And so the bones give the structure to indicate where everything goes. And so when you're drawing a figure, that's what I want you to notice, is that there's a structure to everything. And the structure, if once you get the structure foundation, everything else will fall in line. See that? So I want you to practice this out. Okay, guys. So finally, what we're going to do is work on the head. So I'm using a method that is a well-known method called the Loomis head drawing. So it's when the idea is to have a sphere and then have another half of that sphere extend below the sphere to where the chin area would go. So what I'm doing is I'm going to draw the head front view, quarter view, then side view. Okay? So front view, quarter view, and side view. So what I'm doing is I'm using this sphere or circle object to draw the first half of the head, and I'm using the second half to draw the bottom half of the head. Now notice it has a point at the end, just like an egg, because that's where the chin is indicated to be placed. So now from top to bottom, halfway is where the eye line is going to go. So I'm creating my eye line right here. Okay. Yeah, let's try that again. There we go. And so now I'm doing all three heads with the same eye line, making sure that they line up as far as the height. And so now I have my indication where the eyes will go. Okay, so that's the kind of the Loomis method. Now I say kind of because there's a few things I didn't follow through with. Because I just want you to get the gist of the idea. And so we're drawing this circle on the head to represent the side cranial view of the head. Have my circle here. So it looks like pretty much everything's lined up pretty good. And now I'm drawing the eyebrow line where the eyebrows will be positioned. So now we have our indication where the middle of the head, indication of where the nose is now. And you say, how will I know where the nose is, Willie? How do I know that? Well, I want you to look from the eye line all the way to the chin, and halfway between the eye line and the chin line is a pretty good indication there. Okay, so there you have it there. So now what I'm going to do is place circles to indicate where the eyes are located. Now we have an idea of how the head will look rotating. And so now I'm drawing the eyebrows because I know where everything is going to be located now. So that's why I would like for you to take your time when you're constructing a character, because the time that it takes you to structure it will save you a lot of time when you start designing your characters. And now I'm indicating where the hairline is located. Draw the ears. Okay, and so now I'm indicating where the hairline and now where the ear is located. So it's just simple shapes and just the simple placement of proportional lines. So now we see how a head can be constructed using the Loomis method or using Millie's adventure method. Okay. Okay, so now we have our head figure now. Put the little nose right here. I'm going to make that chin more pronounced. All right, so now we have it. Okay, so now we're going to draw a more detailed head. So that first method I just showed you with the 3 heads was the Loomis method. So I'm going to do my particular version of the Loomis method. I want you to pay attention to what I do to kind of help you see how I'm starting this out. So instead of doing the square object, I decided to do the more circular object to indicate the head. You can do it either way you would like. You could do it the square way, or you could do it the circle shape way. And so now I connecting things to angles. I'm drawing another upside down triangle to indicate where the chin is going to be located. So now I trace, make my structure. Okay, so in the middle, I'm creating my line to indicate where the eyes are going to be located. 2 dots to indicate where her eyes are going to be located. And now what we're doing here is we're drawing a horizontal line to indicate what? That's correct, to indicate the jawline. Drawing my nose, then I'm drawing my mouth. You see how I'm using this construction, these lines? Those are my proportional lines again. It helps me line things up the way they need to be in order to make it look effective. So I have an indication of where a hairline should be located. Okay, draw my ears. And you say, what are you doing, Mr. Balloon, by going to the other side? So remember, we're doing that so we can make the indication of where the bottom of the ear should be located. And the same is true for the neck. Okay, drawing where my eyebrows are going to be located. You see how it's starting to come together? Why? Because we created those geometric lines. Okay, and here is the nose. I'm drawing my eyebrows. I'm drawing my ears. So we can see how the proportional lines helps line everything up accordingly. Okay, so now we're going to draw the quarter view of the head. I'm going to use the same method we used for the front view we just drew. And so now we're doing the quarter view of the head. Okay, so remember it has that oval type of egg shape. And you connect. Draw the eye lines. The hairline. And what is this? This is the eyebrow line. Now what we do is we have our ear line. as you can see, I've drawn a line from the previous head drawing so that I can know where the ears should be located. How high should the ear go and how low should the ear go? Okay. See how I'm outlining the neck, the bottom of the neck, because now I know where everything is going to be located because I have a previous drawing. This is the whole purpose of creating proportional lines, because it helps you and guides you on the direction you should take. So now we have our nose, our eyes, the head shape. Have our eyebrow line. And now we have our quarter view. Have my quarter view here. And now we're going to be drawing the side view. Drawing the structure. Adding all the details that we started to add with the second sketch. Now that I have my two figureheads, I can build a foundation based off of what I drew previously. We made our nose line, and now we're making our list mind. Okay, correcting our inventory or our bottom lip and our chin. And now we're using our lines to line up where the ear should be located. Now we have our side view version of the turning head. So now we're drawing the hairline, the back of the hairline. Now we're going to congratulate him. See, and now we have our muscle. We're connecting the hair. And we're creating markers so that when we trace back over this, we'll know where to go. Then we're drawing our eyebrow line because previously we've already drawn it, so we know where everything needs to go. And so now we have our head shape from front, quarter view, and side. So I want you to try this out. Okay, so now that we have our structure, now we can ink it or trace over it to refine our lines. So I'm going to trace these. And so I'm just tracing over my lines. So I'm tracing the lines that I want to create now. Now that I already have my structure, all I have to do is trace now. I'm just tracing over my figures, my heads. Just tracing. Okay. And just drawing our shapes here. Tracing. Right in this area, I'm going to make a little bit of ridges to kind of give an indication that of how the hair, the texture of it is. Trace your lines. Tracing the jawline. Tracing all my lines. Tracing my eyebrow lines. And it's just that simple, guys. Say it don't look simple. Yeah, it is. The more you practice, it will be simple. And then we use our inking method to trace the nose. All right, good job. So now what we're going to do is finish tracing the other half. So this particular character's name is Ty. So Ty is one of the young men who, on the first episode of the Z Enforcers, went off to college with his group of friends, and they face some challenges as they go out. So those challenges they face is whether or not they can remain grounded as Christian young men. And so they face some challenges on their faith. Kind of like the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the Bible, to where those three men had to be convicted in their faith, and they had to defend their faith against authority. So these young men had here, and Ty is one of those young men who had to defend his faith against a professor at a college, university. So this is just an example of our character, Taj. And now I'm drawing my ear. Draw my eyebrows. Eyes and nose and my mouth. So now I have the structure of my head here. Okay, and now we have it here. Just putting in a little few more fine details. So I have the front view, the quarter view, and the side view. You see that, guys? I want you to try this method out. If you have to pause this video, keep doing it. So try this out. Okay, finally, guys, what we're going to do is actually design a full character. So we're going to draw our main character, Captain Damerius of the Z Enforcers. So I'm starting with the head. Now remember, I want to angle the head the way that I want to angle it because I'm trying to create a certain type of position. So I have the figurehead angled to the right side. And so now I have my neck, drawing my shoulder area, drawing the line demarcation of my chest. And so now I'm creating my spheres. Creating the torso area first. And then I create my spheres on the side of that torso, just like we did earlier. Now, what you may see me do is skip a few steps that we've done previously because I pretty much know where everything is going to be because of me practicing my shapes to those angles. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted you guys to continue to angle your objects in different areas and practice doing that so that when you start to draw your figures, you can already have an idea of where everything is going to be located. So I'm drawing my elbows. We're creating our character. So Damerius, he is the captain of the Z Enforcers. And so the Z Enforcers are original characters I created. And who the Z Enforcers are 8 individuals who commit themselves to protecting the conscience of mankind. Many times when we see heroes, they're physically saving people and they're physically helping civilians be protected from danger, or they'll save them from danger. But these particular characters save individuals from their mental space, the stress that we may experience as human beings, or the anxiety we might experience, or choices that we make that may not be the best choice for us that will lend itself to benefit us. So Captain Damerius is the captain of the Z Enforcers, who the Z Enforcers, they enforce a good morale to mankind from principles from Christ, a Christ-like spirit. And so each of these Z Enforcers, they represent a certain type of virtue, like patience or truth or confidence, or being able to be sober or to have discipline. So they have these type of virtues that they enforce, but you cannot see them. The humans cannot see them, but they see you, they know your habits, they know your background, and so they try to protect you and help you make the best decisions, kind of like angels. But the ploy about this is that they have an opposite nemesis, which are members of the Scorch Force that tries to pull you down a path that is of destruction. And so Captain Damerius is the captain. He's the leader of the team. And so he has a co-captain by the name of Auyawn, and she's the co-captain. And then you have Cree, who is the best friend of Captain Damerius. They grew up together. They've been friends since they were in like the 4th grade. And so you'll kind of get a glimpse of Cree a little bit later. And so here I'm drawing the utility belt, or his gear that's on top of him. But you can, as you can see, I'm starting with simple shapes first, and I'm just drawing 3D shapes, just like we've been doing. Now you can kind of see how this is all coming together, because when you start breaking it down into simple shapes, you're able to advance from there to draw more complex shapes. Drawing his arm brace. See how it starts to come together. Now, typically I go a lot faster than this, but I want to slow this down so that I can let you see my steps that I'm taking to create the process. See how that works? We have his brace and have his utilities that's connected to him. But that's why it's always a great idea to start with the structure first. Makes the process even easier. Many times what beginner artists do is they start to look at the whole overall object itself, and sometimes when you do that, it can be intimidating. So the best thing to do, I find, is that to break it down into simple shapes, and do not try to just draw the elaborate shapes and draw the outlines of the elaborate shapes. Try to break it down first what is the overall shape of the figure? What is the overall shape of the elements on the figure? And once you get that down, it'll pretty much help you in constructing it and adding more detail in the long run. So I have my demarcation where the eyes are gonna go. I'm drawing where the nose is gonna go. Drawing where the end of that nose is gonna go. Drawing my spheres to indicate where the eyes are gonna be located. Where the mouth is going to be located. And where the bottom lip is located. See how that comes together? Forehead, jawline. So again, Captain Damerius is the captain of the Z Enforcers. So in the beginning, how it all started is Captain Damerius has a father who was ruler and king of Zootonia, the planet they came from. And also his father's name was Armagon, and Armagon had a older brother by the name of Zor. And so Armagon and Zor were two brothers who oversee and ruled over Zootonia. And they were placed and put in charge by a supernatural human being by the name of Alpha Magnus. Alpha Magnus is this giant superhuman who gave Armagon and Zor their powers to protect and to take care of Zootonia. And so the planet Zootonia was a place of peace and love and harmony and unity with each other. And this particular planet was an advanced version of Earth. So it's just like Earth. It's just like our planet. But it's more advanced. It's like 1,000 years more advanced. And so Armagon and Zor, the responsibility that was charged by Armagon, Alpha Magnus, their charge was to protect and defend and continue to maintain the peace and unity among the civilians there. But he gave them extra powers, and as a reward of them doing such a great job of protecting that country and continuing to enforce the unity and harmony. But he said they can only use these powers to defend and protect, but they can't use it for revenge or to get vengeance on any opposing enemy country. So as the saga is told, the older brother Zor, he had some resentment towards the Storkons, which was a rivalry country, an army against the Zootonians. And so he wanted to get vengeance because he lost his wife in a war with the Storkons. And so he blamed the Storkons for losing his wife when she was just a bystander to the war. They didn't purposely try to kill her. It's just that she was a bystander that got caught up in the crossfires in the war. And so he had a lot of resentment for that, Zor did. And so what Zor did is he wanted to use those powers to destroy. But Armagon, he remembered what Alpha Magnus said, and that he ruled and decreed that you can't use these powers for vengeance. Or Alpha Magnus said that they would experience a curse if they did so. So what happened is Zor ended up destroying the Storkans, their village, and all the civilians there by using those powers. The younger brother Armagon tried to stop Zor, but he missed him and he failed to be able to stop Zor. So Zor had already destroyed. And so they became enemies because Zor and Armagon disagreed with what Alpha Magnus said about taking vengeance. Where Zor, he felt like that he needed to take matters into his own hands to make sure that Zootonia is protected from the Storkans, which was their biggest threat. And so he felt that they needed to destroy the Storkans so that they won't have them as a threat anymore. But Alpha Magnus, he told them that to leave vengeance in God's hands and not in their own hands. It's just kind of like that scripture in Proverbs chapter 3 verses 5 through 6. It says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and don't lean on your own understanding. And so that was basically the philosophy that Alpha Magnus was saying. And so Armagon, the younger brother, he stayed true to that, but Zor did not. And so they became enemies. And as a curse from Alpha Magnus, Zor turned into a demon. He was cursed and turned into a demon. But Armagon did not. And so there will begin to be rivalry between the two brothers, and there was a big war in Zootonia. And from that big war, it caused destruction, and nearly both of them died. So Armagon and his brother Zor died as a result of the war that they had. But their sons took charge. So Damerius taking charge as commander of the Z Enforcers, and Lavar Venueli, aka Inferno 1, took charge as command over the Scorch Force. So the two captains, Captain Damerius here of the Z Enforcers and Captain Inferno 1 of the Scorch Force, are cousins. So there's rivalry between the two cousins. Now, Damerius was never really a rival to Inferno 1, but Inferno 1 felt like it was rivalry because he was jealous. He would always challenge Captain Damerius. Even when they were kids, he would always challenge him. The reason being because his father always felt like that Damerius was more of an ideal son than his own son was. And so he would say, you should be more like your cousin. You should be more like my nephew. He's more of a son to me than you. And so he made Inferno 1, his own son, feel like he was never good enough. And so Inferno 1 had a lot of resentment for his cousin based off of his father's viewpoint. And so now the saga continues between the Z Enforcers and Inferno 1. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start inking this, outlining the whole figure shape so I can ink it. Okay. So I'm just outlining it. So So you outline. And there's all kind of different ways you can ink it or ink a project. You don't have to do it the way that I'm doing it, but this is just one of the ways. There's a variety of ways. I like to, a lot of times, outline the whole figure first and then go back in and do details. Okay, and then now what I'm going to do is go back in, start adding my details. Details, the collar line. Get the hairline. As you can see, when I draw my strokes, I'm making it in the direction that I want the hair to flow. So the interesting thing about Captain Damerius and the team is that Captain Damerius didn't take over his father's position as ruler because Alpha Magnus had a bigger mission for the Z Enforcers. So you might say, well, then who did take over the position of his father's place? Well, it was his father's good friend, Lieutenant General Tiggins, who was a ruler of another country that was allies to the Zootonians. So he was a best friend to Armagon. He was kind of like a brother to Armagon because they were so close as friends. Armagon was actually more closer to General Tiggins than he was his own brother Zor, because his own brother Zor had a spirit that was just very extremely arrogant and prideful, whereas Armagon and General Tiggins had the same type spirit. They had kindred spirits. So he was more like a brother to him. So when we talk about Captain Damerius and Cree, Sergeant Cree, that's one of the teammates, their friendship parallels Armagon and General Tiggins' relationship. So it's kind of similar. And so you might say, so what is the Z Enforcer's mission if Captain Damerius is not ruler of the Zootonia like his father was? Well, their mission is to protect mankind on Earth. Protect mankind how? Well, they protect mankind by protecting the conscience of mankind. So each enforcer enforces a certain virtue like truth or patience or mercy. And so whatever struggle that we're challenged with, that particular Z Enforcer is sent to help us in those decisions. Whereas on the other hand, Scorch Force is trying to pull us down a path of destruction, a path that doesn't benefit us, doesn't look out for our well-being, but a kind of a selfish pathway that gets you to be more concerned about what you want and desire and not serve anyone else. And a lot of times when we fall into those traps, we end up being more miserable than we do when we have fulfillment by serving others. Because the Bible says it's better to give than receive. So when you're serving others, you get a sense of hope, because when people see how you change and impact their life by you serving them, it kind of lets you know what your value is. And when you know what your value is, you feel more confident, you feel more good about yourself, your self-esteem goes up, you have purpose, you have value. And God gave every single one of us value. But when you're more concerned about self, you end up being more miserable, because it's like you're never thankful. You're never happy. You're never satisfied, because the human mind wants to consume as much as possible. But Jesus gave us a direction to where we don't have to feel like we're purposeless. So that's the kind of mindset that the Z Enforcers instill. And so I'm just drawing all of the tools and all of the things that's on him, tracing those. Now you can speed this up if you would like, but I just want to take it slow so you can actually see my process. Actually see me slow it down so you can see the details of what I'm doing. So we're just putting all our shapes together. Getting all of our shapes inked. So we're inking everything. We're inking the muscles. And sometimes you may have to erase and just keep going over until you get it the way you want to. Getting this utility belt now. And getting his other side of his utility belt. begin. And let's put this buckle together. Okay, so we're getting nearing the end. Put a few finishing touches. Finish up a few touches. Put a little shadow here. And put a brace here. And there you have it, Captain Damerius. Yours truly, Captain Damerius, a true leader and hero. And so here we have Captain Auyawn and Sergeant Cree. So remember, I was telling you Cree was the best friend of Captain Damerius. They were the two that started the team. Cree basically architect all the technology to the Z Enforcer base. And then Auyawn, she is the co-captain with Captain Damerius. She's tough. She's the enforcer of truth, so she's like a master lawyer. She will get you to tell the truth. But she also is kind of like has a motherly role to the team. A lot of the teammates get a lot of good advice from her, as they do Cree's sister as well too, Alanis. She's another one that that's very wise on the team. So all of these teammates went to Z Academy together. That's how they all met. Some of them were friends before they even went to Z Academy. A lot of them were friends, just like Cree and Captain Damerius were best friends since they were kids. But you see how I broke it down into simple shapes, and then I go back and start adding details. So you can see I have my structure, I have my position, my gesture, my pose, and now I know where everything is going to be because I positioned my characters in that way. Okay, same thing with Cree. Cree has the strength of 10 men just by himself. He's a pretty strong guy, but also like one of the most intelligent. Thing about Cree is there's nothing that he cannot crack open. There's not a code he can't crack. He is like a master positive hacker, not a negative hacker, but a positive hacker. He breaks the codes that hackers create. He can break them. Whereas on the Scorch Forces team, they have a teammate by the name of Tezra, and she's able to infiltrate and break into all kind of intelligence. So often her and Cree rival each other with hacking and breaking into codes. So Cree knows everything about computer intelligence. This is just kind of give you an idea of a character breakdown. But you see how the difference between Cree and Auyawn, the contrast between the two. And she has more poise and finesse, and he has more dynamics with his size. And so you want to tell a story when you're drawing a character. You want to tell a story by just the way you position them, the way you create them, their size, all of that plays a part into letting the viewer know what this character is all about. attributes and utility wells together. Just keep working it out. It's kind of like you're molding out of clay. You're creating the structure. The more and more you go, and you make it the way you want it to look. So I'm just refining some of the lines so I know what I'm looking at. See, when I erase certain lines, you can start to see what I was trying to create. And there you have it. Auyawn and Cree.